My Aries CEO demanded loyalty, then cut me loose. I took the contract he needed most. Amelia Vance's alarm, a gentle chime from her iPhone 5, would pierce the pre-dawn quiet of her midtown Atlanta apartment at 5:30 a.m. without fail. It was 2013, and the city was a symphony of ambition and movement. Her one-bedroom, with its minimalist decor and a sprawling view of the urban canopy slowly yielding to the rising sun, was less a home and more a highly efficient pit stop between demanding days. Every morning, she'd don her meticulously pressed power suits, charcoal gray, navy blue, the occasional deep forest green, a uniform for the relentless corporate battlefield. Her coffee, black and strong, brewed in a French press she'd received as a housewarming gift years ago, was her first strategic move. She'd navigate the notorious Atlanta traffic on a -85 in her reliable, if uninspired, Honda Civic, the radio tuned to NPR, soaking in the day's headlines before she hit the concrete jungle of Buckhead. Her destination? Aegis Solutions, a high-octane management consulting firm whose glass and steel facade gleamed imperiously under the Georgia sun. Aegis, under the relentless, charismatic leadership of Thorne, was a titan in its niche, specializing in colossal logistical overhauls for Fortune 500 companies. Marcus, a man whose 45 years had etched a permanent intensity into his sharp features, was an Aries to his core, competitive, ambitious, demanding, and utterly convinced of his own infallible vision. Amelia, 32, had started at Aegis 5 years prior as a junior analyst, clawing her way up the ranks with a combination of razor-sharp intellect, an almost inhuman work ethic, and a capacity for strategic foresight that few possessed. She was now a senior project manager, her name synonymous with successful, complex client implementations. Marcus, initially, had been her mentor, a demanding taskmaster who pushed her to her limits but also showered her with praise when she delivered. He'd often say, "Amelia, loyalty is everything. It's the bedrock of this company, and you, my dear, are the cornerstone." She believed him. She poured her entire being into Aegis, canceling weekend plans, foregoing vacations, working through holidays. Her life was a carefully constructed edifice of professional achievements, each brick laid with her sweat and strategic acumen. Her only true escape was a rare run through Piedmont Park, or an evening catching a Braves game at Turner Field with her college roommate, Sarah, who constantly chided her for her lack of a social life. "Amelia, you're going to wake up one day and realize you've only ever lived in a spreadsheet," Sarah would lament over a cheap bottle of Merlot. Amelia would just smile, already mentally drafting the next day's project brief. The most critical project on Aegis's horizon was the Titan logistics bid. Titan, a global e-commerce and distribution behemoth, was looking to overhaul its entire North American supply chain, a contract worth upwards of $500 million. It was the kind of deal that could cement Aegis's legacy for the next decade. For 6 grueling months, Amelia had lived and breathed Titan. She'd led the pitch team, flying constantly between Atlanta, Seattle, and Dallas, conducting granular analysis of Titan's existing infrastructure, identifying choke points, crafting innovative solutions for inventory management, last-mile delivery optimization, and global warehousing. Her office, high in the Buckhead Tower, became a war room, festooned with whiteboards covered in flowcharts, Gantt charts, and complex algorithms. She'd spent countless nights sleeping on the ergonomic sofa in her office, waking up to the sterile glow of her laptop screen, fueled by lukewarm coffee and the unwavering belief in her strategy. Marcus, during this period, had been a constant presence, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. "This is it, Amelia, your legacy, our legacy. Deliver this and the sky's the limit. A partnership, a board seat, whatever you want. Loyalty breeds reward." The words tasted like success, like the future she had tirelessly built. Then the email came. A terse, 3-line message from Titan's CEO. Aegis Solutions has been awarded the North American Supply Chain Optimization contract. Congratulations. Amelia stared at her MacBook Air screen, a wave of profound relief and triumph washing over her. She'd done it. She let out a whoop, startling her weary team members who were still hunched over their desks, finalizing subcomponents. High fives, celebratory shouts, and even a few tears of joy broke the tense silence of the office. Amelia felt a surge of loyalty, a deep pride in the team she'd led, and the company that had given her the platform. This was the pinnacle. The next morning, Marcus Thorne's assistant, a perpetually flustered young man named Kevin, informed Amelia that Marcus wanted to see her. "He says it's urgent, Amelia, and bring your Titan brief." Her heart swelled. This was it. The promotion, the recognition, the conversation about her future. She straightened her blazer, a confident smile playing on her lips, and walked into Marcus's opulent office, sunlight glinting off the polished mahogany desk. Marcus didn't look up from his monitor as she entered. "Amelia, close the door." His voice was devoid of its usual booming warmth. He gestured to the plush leather chair opposite his desk, not even offering her a handshake. A cold knot formed in her stomach. "Congratulations on Titan," he finally said, his eyes still glued to his screen, his tone flat. "A phenomenal win. You truly outdid yourself." "Thank you, Marcus. It was a team effort, but I'm incredibly proud of what we achieved." She waited, expecting the pivot, the praise, the vision for her next step. He finally looked up, his gaze like chips of ice. "Which makes this all the more difficult." He leaned back, lacing his fingers. "Amelia, Aegis Solutions is undergoing a strategic realignment. We're moving in a new direction, focusing on, shall we say, a leaner, more agile leadership model." He paused, letting the words hang in the air like a guillotine blade. "Effective immediately, your employment with Aegis Solutions is terminated." The world tilted. The opulent office, the Buckhead skyline outside the window, Marcus's face, it all seemed to warp. "Terminated?" She whispered, the word alien, impossible. "But Titan, I just closed the biggest deal in the company's history." "Precisely. You closed it. Your utility in that capacity has, unfortunately, run its course." He continued, his voice devoid of any empathy. "We need a fresh perspective for the implementation phase. Someone who can take this win and scale it without a lingering attachment to the original pitch. Your compensation structure, while well-deserved for your contributions, no longer fits our new operational paradigm. We simply can't justify your salary for the role we envision." Amelia felt a searing heat spread through her chest, quickly replaced by an icy numbness. This wasn't about restructuring. It was about cost-cutting, about removing a high-earning, highly influential project manager now that the heavy lifting was done. And perhaps it was about Marcus taking full, undisputed credit for her victory. The audacity, the sheer, unadulterated betrayal. "You promised me a partnership," she managed to stammer, her voice shaking. "You promised me a future here. I gave you everything." Marcus scoffed, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. "Promises are contingent on performance and company needs. Amelia, you performed. Now the company needs something different. It's business, not personal." He picked up a stapled packet from his desk. "HR has prepared your severance package. 2 weeks notice pay, plus 3 months of your base salary. Your benefits will cease at the end of the month. Your access will be revoked by 5 p.m. today. Please pack your personal belongings and escort yourself out. Kevin will assist you." She stood, numb, unable to process the cruelty, the cold dismissal. "You're taking my work, my strategy, my victory, and then you're cutting me loose." He finally looked her dead in the eye, a predatory glint in his Aries gaze. "Aegis Solutions owns all work product generated during your employment. That includes the Titan strategy. You understood that when you signed your contract, Amelia. It's the cost of doing business at this level. Loyalty, as I said, is everything. And sometimes, loyalty means knowing when your time is up." The walk back to her office was a blur. Every smile from a colleague felt like a stab, every congratulatory glance an arrow. Kevin, looking genuinely uncomfortable, silently offered her a box. She packed her few personal items. A framed photo of her and Sarah, a small potted succulent, a stack of worn business books. Her meticulously organized desk, the whiteboards, the project notes, all of it now belonged to Aegis, to Marcus Thorne. As she walked out, carrying her box, the office hummed with oblivious productivity. No one stopped her. No one asked why, just a few curious glances, quickly averted. The once bright, bustling office felt like a mausoleum. She drove home in a daze, the familiar Atlanta streets alien and hostile. The setting sun, usually a welcome sight, cast long, accusatory shadows. When she finally reached her apartment, she dropped the box on the floor and collapsed onto her sofa. The dam broke. Days bled into weeks of tears, rage, and a profound sense of emptiness. She ignored Sarah's calls, let takeout containers pile up, and stared blankly at the TV. Her savings, though substantial, weren't infinite. The financial anxiety began to gnaw, a constant, dull ache beneath the emotional wounds. One evening, nearly a month after her termination, she found herself staring at the Titan Logistics project notes she had saved on a personal USB drive, a habit she'd picked up from an old mentor. Always keep personal archives of your triumphs, Amelia. You never know when you'll need a reminder of your worth. It wasn't the core Aegis proprietary data, but her personal research, the market analyses she'd compiled, the bespoke solutions she'd conceptualized before they were refined by the team. Her meticulousness, once a professional strength, now felt like a cruel joke. But as she scrolled through the detailed reports, a different emotion began to surface, slow and simmering. Not just anger, but a fierce, icy resolve. Marcus Thorne had stolen her future. He had leveraged her brilliance, then discarded her like a used-up resource. But what he hadn't stolen, what he couldn't steal, was her understanding. Amelia didn't just manage the Titan project. She had lived inside its complexity. She knew Titan's senior leadership, their unspoken anxieties, their deepest operational fears. She knew the Aegis strategy inside and out, not just the pitch, but the intricate, often fragile dependencies of its implementation plan. And she knew Marcus. His arrogance, his tendency to delegate the fine details, his utter reliance on his star players to actually deliver. He could win the contract, but could he execute it without her? A small, dangerous smile touched her lips. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming her worth, her narrative, and proving that true value wasn't simply a line item on a spreadsheet. It was about building something better. Her first move was strategic retreat and deep reconnaissance. She spent the next 2 months working part-time as an independent consultant for a small logistics startup, a far cry from Aegis, but it kept her mind sharp and a trickle of income flowing. Nights were consumed by her new mission. She researched the corporate landscape, studied every news article about Titan Logistics, every press release from Aegis Solutions. She saw the familiar pattern. Aegis was announcing the Titan project's smooth rollout, but Amelia knew better. A project of this magnitude would encounter snags, especially under a leadership team that hadn't lived through the initial discovery phase. She leveraged her LinkedIn network, discreetly reconnecting with former Aegis colleagues who had also been unceremoniously dismissed by Marcus or had left due to his demanding style. She heard whispers, delays, budget overruns, key personnel changes on the Aegis side. Titan was growing impatient. The whispers confirmed her theory. Marcus had severely underestimated the complexity of the implementation without the institutional knowledge that Amelia had painstakingly built. He had assumed his lieutenants could pick up where she left off, but they lacked her depth of understanding, her rapport with Titan's key decision-makers. Amelia's hidden advantage wasn't a stolen document. It was her unique perspective, her ability to see the cracks in Aegis's armor. She knew that Aegis's plan, while brilliant on paper, hinged on a specific, highly customized software integration that only she had fully mapped out. Without her, it was a black box. Her plan began to solidify. She wouldn't directly sabotage Aegis. That was petty, risky, and beneath her. Instead, she would position herself as the solution to a problem Aegis was inevitably creating. She would build her own firm, a lean, agile operation, focused precisely on the specialized area where Aegis was weakest. Bespoke software integration for complex logistics. She named her new venture Vance Logistics Solutions. She started small, working from her apartment, investing her severance package into legal fees, licensing, and building a professional online presence. She reconnected with a former colleague from her analyst days, David Chen, a brilliant software architect who had left Aegis a year prior. Disillusioned by Marcus's micromanagement, David was looking for a new challenge, and Amelia offered him a partnership, equity in her fledgling company. Together, they refined the technical specifications for the Titan project's most challenging component, the very part Aegis was now struggling with. She also brought in Sarah, her loyal friend, not as a strategist, but as a business manager, bringing much-needed organizational discipline to Amelia's nascent operation. Sarah, a seasoned administrator, was initially skeptical but quickly caught Amelia's vision and relentless drive. Months passed. It was now early 2014. The news cycle began to feature more critical reports on the Titan logistics overhaul. Sources indicate significant delays in Titan's North American operational improvements. One article from the Wall Street Journal read, "Industry insiders point to a complex integration strategy and potential project management deficiencies." Amelia felt a grim satisfaction. Marcus Thorne was failing. She saw her opening. Titan Logistics, desperate to get their project back on track, had quietly issued a request for proposal, RFP, for a specialized software integration subcontract, precisely the area Aegis was stumbling in. It was a clear sign that Titan was losing faith in Aegis's ability to deliver. Amelia and David worked day and night on their pitch for Titan. Their proposal wasn't just technically sound. It was deeply insightful, anticipating Titan's frustrations, offering solutions that were both innovative and practical, drawing heavily on Amelia's intimate knowledge of the original project's intent and Marcus's managerial blind spots. She leveraged her existing contacts within Titan Logistics, subtly reminding them of her past contributions without directly criticizing Aegis. She presented Vance Logistics Solutions not as a competitor to Aegis, but as a specialized partner, capable of resolving a critical, specific pain point. The presentation was held at Titan's Atlanta headquarters. Amelia, poised and confident in a tailored navy suit, spoke with the authority of someone who had built the very framework they were now trying to salvage. She addressed the delays, the budget overruns, the integration challenges, not with blame, but with precise, actionable solutions. Her presentation was a masterclass in elegant problem-solving, her deep understanding of Titan's intricate needs shining through. She had come prepared with a detailed project plan, a clear timeline, and a highly competitive, fixed-price bid that significantly undercut what Aegis was likely charging for its stalled efforts. The Titan executives, weary from months of frustration with Aegis, were visibly impressed. They asked pointed questions about Aegis's current performance, and Amelia answered carefully, professionally, focusing on her firm's capabilities rather than Aegis's failures, but allowing the contrast to speak for itself. She had cultivated relationships with key Titan personnel during her original project, and those relationships now paid dividends. She wasn't just a consultant, she was a trusted voice. 2 weeks later, the call came. Titan Logistics was awarding the critical software integration subcontract to Vance Logistics Solutions. It wasn't the entire $500 million project, but it was a substantial, multi-million-dollar piece, a crucial component that Aegis desperately needed to deliver. More importantly, it directly exposed Aegis's weaknesses and Amelia's superior capabilities. The news ripped through the Atlanta corporate world like wildfire. Marcus Thorne heard it not from Titan, but through a furious, desperate phone call from his head of operations. Titan just awarded the integration phase to some upstart firm, Vance Logistics Solutions. Do you know them, Marcus? They're undercutting us, and they know our plan inside and out. Marcus's blood ran cold. Vance, Amelia Vance. The name hit him like a physical blow. He launched an immediate, furious investigation, discovering her new company, her successful pitch, and the sheer audacity of her move. His arrogance had blinded him. He'd seen her as a replaceable cog, not a strategic architect. He had demanded loyalty, then cut her loose, only for her to turn around and claim the very piece of the puzzle he couldn't put together. He tried to fight it, of course. He called Titan's CEO, sputtering about intellectual property theft, non-compete clauses, and corporate espionage. But Amelia had been scrupulously careful. Her proposal used publicly available data, her own accumulated expertise, and her unique insights into Titan's needs, not Aegis's proprietary documents. Her contract with Aegis had standard non-compete clauses, but they were geographically and time-limited, and she had waited until they expired or were rendered moot by the specific nature of her subcontract. She had legally and ethically outmaneuvered him. The consequences for Marcus Thorne and Aegis Solutions were swift and brutal. Losing such a vital piece of the Titan contract, especially to a former employee, sent shockwaves through the market. Aegis's stock took a hit. Their reputation for flawless execution was tarnished. Other potential clients, witnessing the public spectacle of their failure on a marquee project, began to reconsider their engagements. Marcus, the infallible Aries CEO, was publicly humiliated. His aggressive, demanding style, once seen as a strength, was now viewed as a liability, fostering a culture of fear and driving away top talent. Amelia, however, soared. Vance Logistics Solutions flourished. The successful delivery of the Titan integration project became her new calling card, establishing her firm as a specialized, highly effective player in the competitive logistics consulting world. She hired more talented, ethical professionals, creating a workplace built on mutual respect and genuine collaboration, everything Aegis was not. Her revenge wasn't just personal, it was professional. She hadn't destroyed Aegis, but she had exposed its fragility, its dependence on the talent it so carelessly discarded. She had taken the contract he needed most, not out of malice, but out of a profound understanding that she was the one truly capable of delivering it. Her loyalty, once misguidedly given to a ruthless CEO, was now firmly directed at her own vision, her own company, and her own unwavering principles. And as her new office, in a smaller but infinitely more collaborative space in Midtown, buzzed with the energy of her thriving team, Amelia Vance finally felt truly free, truly powerful, and truly, unequivocally, herself.